Hi, welcome to my video on system of linear equations, two variables, solved by the substitution method, part 2. Substitution method, part 2. Solved by the substitution method. And let's do a little bit more in solving for a variable. Solve each for the indicated variable. So we want to solve this equation for x. So 3x stays on the left. 4y moves over, and then the 24. So the y is moving over to become minus, and we divide by 3. The 3's cancel, I get 1x, negative 4 over 3y plus 8. Notice when I solve now, 3 won't go into 4, or 4 won't go into 3. So, but I will not get I'll get a 1 coefficient, but I'll have a fraction. Let's try the same equation again, but this time we're solving for y. So y stays on the left, and the x moves to the right to become minus 3x. And when we do, we divide by 4. So the 4's cancel to give me a 1. I get a negative 3 over 4x plus 24 divided by 4 is 6. Again, notice solving it for x, I will get a fraction. Solving it for y, I will get a fraction. So I have no other choice but to get a fraction because I can't get a 1 coefficient. C, if you look, 2 can't go into 5. 5 can't go into 2 unless you get fractions. But let's solve it for x anyway. So x, when you solve for x, x stays on the left, and the y moves to the right, and the constant moves to the right. It's like a y equals mx plus b. You're solving for x, so x is on the left. All the other terms are on the right. Divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 5 divided by 2, leave it alone. We could go 2.5, 2.5, but we leave it as a fraction. 10 divided by 2 is 5. And we want to solve this equation for y, so that means y is on the left. Stays negative. The x is moving, so it's negative 2x. The 10 is moving to become plus 10. And we divide both sides, or every term, by negative 5. When they cancel out to give you a 1. Remember, it's 1 and 1. And this gives you negative 2 divided by negative 5 is 2 over 5x minus 2. You could also have this equation as y equals 2x over 5 minus 2. So 2 over 5x is the same as 2x over 5. Either or will do. Your choice. So we've learned the first step in substitution is that we try to get a numerical coefficient of 1. If you can't, then you'll definitely end up like these with fractions. But that makes no difference as long as you have a 1 coefficient for one of the variables. That's the first step. You need a 1 numerical coefficient for either one of the variables. So after you get that, then let's do step 2. Substitute the variable with the numerical coefficient of 1 into the other equation and solve the equation. So this is equation 1, and this is equation 2. So what happens? Equation 2 got the variable of 1. So we're going to take this equation and sub it in equation 1. So substitute the variable with the numerical coefficient of 1 into the other equation. So this is the 1 coefficient, so we're going to substitute 2 into 1. So we're going to sub 2x 4y into number 1. So really, we're taking the y and replacing it in here. So I'll write down number 1, the same as we did before, only before we did it with numbers. Now we're doing it with the variables. So we're subbing 2x for y. So we're replacing y with the 2x. So y is equal to 2x. So we take that y right there and we put 2x in the spot. Same as if I said y was equal to 7, I would put 7 there. But I'm putting 2x now. Now I multiply by PEMDAS. That gives me 3 times 2x is 6x. I add up my like terms. I get a 10x equals 20. Divide by 10 on each side. They cancel to give me 1x. And 20 divided by 10 is 2. So there's the one variable. So I sub that into the other equation. You can't sub it back into the same equation. So if equation 2 has a 1 coefficient, you sub it into 1. If equation 1 has a coefficient, then you sub it into 2. So let's look at B. That's equation 1. That's equation 2. So the second equation has a 1 coefficient. So we're going to sub x plus 4 y into number 1. Y is solved. So we're going to replace y with x minus 4. So 3x minus 2y equals 1. So we're replacing y. Y is equal to x minus 4, so it's 3x bracket. So we're replacing y. So what's y? X minus 4. And equals 1. So 3x, negative 2 times x, negative 2 times negative 4. And I could add them first, but I'm going to bring my 8, that's a 1, sorry, minus 8. So that gives me x equals negative 7. It's a 1, bring my 8 over. That 1 right there is right there. So x is equal to negative 7. So notice I'm taking the y and subbing it in. So in the place of that y right there, I'm putting in x minus 4. And to get the value of x. Substitution method. More practice. Just takes a while to get used to it. Solve by substitution method. Example, substitute the variable with the numerical coefficient of 1 into the other equation and solve. Just repeating what I just did. So this time, I have the two equations. I got equation 1. Again, numbered equations. Let everybody know, or I'm letting you know what I'm doing. So which equation got a 1 coefficient? Number 1. So I'm going to sub 3y plus 4x. I'm going to put that in the place of x into number 2. So note, number 1 is solved for x. I'm putting that right there into number 2. So write down number 2, and I'm putting 3y plus 4 in the place of x. So put a bracket. So 3y plus 4 goes in the place of x. Notice I have all y's. So that's an x equals 3y plus 4. So you're putting right there. There it is. I'm subbing in 3y plus 4 in the place of x. So multiply negative 15y minus 20 plus 6y, because you have to remove the brackets. And now we have 15y plus 6y equals negative 1 plus 20. So negative 15 and 6 is a negative 9y equals 19. And when we divide negative 9 by each part, we get negative 19 over 9, because they cancel out with 1s. So, again, number 1 is solved for x, so I sub that into number 2 for x. Look over at D. We got to work at this one. Number 1 is the first one. Number 2 is the second one. So notice number 1 is solved for y. So we're subbing this into that y right there. Because that's solved for y, I will sub it into this one here. So I'm Number 1 is solved, so I sub it into 2. So I'm subbing negative a half x minus 1 4y into 2. So that means I write down number 2. Once you get used to it, everything becomes okay. Just more practice, practice, practice. So I'm replacing y. So I'm replacing y with, so y is negative a half x plus 1. Negative a half x, minus 1. Negative a half x minus 1. Now I have to multiply by PEMDAS before I do anything. So negative 8x. Negative times negative is a positive. A half of 10 is 5, so I get a 5x. And a negative. Now I shouldn't do that because now I gotta, see, that's not right. I should say 2 into 10 goes 5. And now I gotta multiply negative 10 by negative 1. So I shouldn't cancel these right now. I should just leave that alone. Watch, I'm gonna go back again. Make that a 2. Make this a 10. That's a 10. So I should say 10 times a half is 5. Then I go and go 10 times negative 1. So don't cancel here because then you'll have a 5 going by the 1. So a half of 10 is, so go over here and go 10 times a half. And that cancels to give you a 5. And then go 10 times negative 1. So don't cancel here. Go over on the side. Go 10 times a half is 5. And then say negative 10 times negative 1. Be careful. The negative 10 is multiplied by both of these. And that gives me 8. Negative 8x plus 5x equals negative 2 minus 10. So negative 3x equals negative 12. Divide by negative 3. And I get x equals 4. X equals 4. And practice. Just thinking about something, then just pause for a second. Practice. Substitute the variable with the numerical coefficient of 1 into the other equation and solve the, so we're only just solving the, after we sub it in, we're solving the equation. So this is number 1. That's number 2. So number 2 is solved. So I'm going to sub x plus 3 4y into number 1. So number 2 is solved for y. I'm going to sub that into 1. So write down number 1. So I'm subbing in the place of y. So what's y is equal to x plus 3. So y is equal to x plus 3. So 5x plus 6x plus 18. Remember, you got to remove your brackets. Now, if you wanted to, you could add these right away here because you're going to move your 18. So you could go 11x equals negative 4 minus 18 because it's easy to add these. That's your choice. 11x equals negative 22. Divide by 11. They cancel to give you 1x, negative 2. So you don't have to write this down again. Like up here, I wrote this down again, but if you wanted to add quickly, you can see that's 11, and then bring your 18 over. Your choice. And this is number 1. This is number 2. So number 1 is solved for x. So I'm going to sub 2y minus 4, 4x into number 2. Number 2. Number 1 is solved for x. So if number 1 is solved for a variable, you sub it into 2. If number 2 is solved for a variable, you sub it into 1. You sub it into the other one. Remember that. So we write down number 2. So if your teacher's not asking you to say this, you don't have to. You just take this and sub it in right there. Ask your teacher if you're asked to write this down like I'm doing. If not, just take the x is 2y minus 4 and sub it in here without saying anything. It's your choice. So what's x? 2y minus 4. So x is 2y minus 4. Notice we're on the right track because we got all y's. Negative 4y plus 8, negative 8y equals 4. Again, you can add the two of these, but if you want, do this. Now you can add them because they're like terms. Negative 12, y equals 4 into 4 goes once, 4 into 12 goes 3, positive 1/3. Positive 1/3. So we're solving. Number 1 is solved, so we substitute into 2. Number 2 is solved, so we substitute into 1. So y is this, so we're replacing this y with x plus 3. X is equal to 2y minus 4, so we're taking x away from here, put a bracket, and we're putting in 2y minus 4. So notice you have all x's here, so you solve for x. You have all y's here, so you're solving for y. So you're really substituting to get one variable in the equation. And we substitution method practice. Practice means pause the video and work out. Substitute the variable with the numerical coefficient of 1 into the other equation and solve. So this is number 1 and number 2. Pause your video, work this out, then press play. Then pause it again and work this one out and press play to see if you're right. Do one at a time. So we're going to sub negative x plus 4, 4y into. So that's number 2 solved, so we're going to sub it into 1. So you write down number 1 equation, 8x minus 3y equals negative 12. So what's y equal to? Negative x plus 4. So we replace y with a negative x, make sure it's an x, negative x plus 4. And then we simplify the equation. So 8x plus 3x minus 12x, negative 12. And they're close together, so if you want to add these, go ahead. Or we can leave it alone, but I think you can see that that's going to be 11x. The 12 moved over, become plus. 11x equals 0, divide by 11. X equals 0. Notice you got 11x equals 0. There's only one number to multiply by 11 to give you 0, and that's 0 itself. So again, number 2 is solved for y, so we're subbing that into number 1 to replace the y, so we'll have all x's. Number 4, this is number 1, this is number 2, and this is the equation that's solved for x. So we'll sub this into that x right there. So we're going to sub 2/3 y minus 2 for x into. So number 1, we're subbing it into 2. So I'll write down number 2. There it is. And we're replacing the x. So the x is subbing in. So we got 2/3 y minus 2. And notice when we're subbing, I put brackets around it. I mentioned that before. So be careful. 6 times 2/3. So 6 times 2/3. Do it over on the side. 3 into 6 goes 2. So that's a 4y. Now you have 6 times negative 2, which is negative 12. So if you cancel here, you're going to make an error, because you're going to make that a 2. So you should go 6 times 2/3, work it out, that gives you a 4. And then go 6 times negative 2, negative 12. So notice the 6 is multiplied by each one of these. Do the 6 times on the side, and you'll be okay. And If you want to add, go ahead, but just to make sure, I could have said 4y plus y is 5y, but if you keep these together and then add them after, your choice. And you divide by 5, so y equals negative 6 over 5. Again, number 1 is solved for x, so we sub it into number 2. Be careful. The one that is solved for, you sub it into the other one. Number 5, we have equation 1 and equation 2. Notice number 2 equation is solved for L. This is L and W. Notice I changed the variable now. We don't have to have x's and y's. You could take L and W's length and width. You could have P and Q. You could have A and B. You could have equations with M and N as the variables. Don't have to be x and y. So this is the equation that's solved. So we're going to sub 4W plus 3 4L into. So number 2 is solved. We're going to sub it into number 1. So 2L plus 2W. Now notice I'm writing this equation down to show you that I'm writing it down and then I'm subbing in the place of L. L is equal to 4W plus 3, so that 4W plus 3 goes right there. So I'm writing the equation down so you can see what I'm doing. But if you wanted to write this equation down like this without writing this one first, that's your choice. But again, writing the equation down creates less errors. So 2 times 4 is 8, 2 times 3 is 6, and 8W plus 2W equals 70 minus 6. 10W equals 64, and you divide by 10. 10 divided by 10 is 1, and 64 divided by 10 is 6.4 if you want a decimal. Or you could go 2 into that is 32 over 5. So 32 over 5 is the same as decimal, 6.4. So you could have decimals in your answers. So that brings us to the end of the next step in substitution. So I teach by learning one step at a time. Practice that step, and then when we get them all done, we put them all together. So if you like my video, click the like button, click the subscribe button, click the notification bell because there's more videos coming your way. Visit my math website, www.mathfullyexplained.com, to find more information about me, my videos, and the content. The content is important. That's what's on my YouTube channel. Thank you very much for viewing my video. Bye-bye.